Well, you saw the original, and it is now time for the sequel. This is High Stakes Duel 2, and it's time for the Hype Show, brought to you by DraftKings. Welcome inside the PokerGO studio. Ali underdressed Nejad alongside my very slick-looking counterpart, Nick Schulman. And Nick, people have been chomping at the bit for this one. Long overdue, a mano-a-mano battle between Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu, big-time veterans of the game.
Almost here, Ali. I mean, it's a good one. You know, it kind of speaks for itself. Negreanu, Hellmuth, heads up. Let's go.
Yeah. Well, if you're wondering, let's go, what exactly does that entail? Let's walk you through the rules. For some first-timers to the high-stakes duel format, here it is. Heads up, no limit, hold'em. Winner take all, freeze outs. Blinds are up every 30 minutes. Kind of a quick structure, I think it's fair to say. Winner stays on, the loser has the option to challenge. And of course, Hellmuth beating Antonio Esfandiari 3 consecutive times as Esfandiari was unwilling to walk away. If the loser declines, however, challenger's seat remains open for a period of 30 days. And the cash-out rules obviously depend on the number of rounds that you have won. Hellmuth profiting $350K in that very first duel, and he looked very good in that match.
He had a great match, start to finish. I mean, he got the job done, you know, and he outplayed Antonio objectively. I think we all sort of saw that. Let's see what he has for Mr. Negreanu. I mean, this is a different animal that he's stepping in there with, but we'll see. You know, Phil has surprised us before, so I'm excited, man.
Yeah, well, let's take a look back at that match that we're alluding to. For those that maybe missed it, it was Antonio against Phil, and these are some of the highlights.
Phil Hellmuth comes back to defeat.
I know you're re-challenging me. Yeah, official.
Antonio Esfandiari. And it's official. Phil Hellmuth defeating Antonio Esfandiari in round 2 of the high stakes duel.
Good.
Bids the opposition adieu, and Phil Hellmuth has just won his 3rd straight against the Magician.
Now, burger and candy inhalation aside, which of course was one of the more memorable non-poker related elements of that particular match, Phil riding a big high, and I think raised some eyebrows. Some people were saying, okay, maybe it's time that we reevaluate our lack of respect for Phil Hellmuth. And then there were others who are pretty reputable entities in the poker world who said, wait a minute, not so fast. And they were not shy about it as they took to Twitter to share their feelings on Hellmuth. Ike Haxton weighing in, saying it's a bit much for everybody to be talking about the greatest laydown in history in a hand where one of the participants is barely playing poker. And I assume he's talking about Esfandiari in that spot, or you think he's talking about Hellmuth?
No, he was talking about the Hellmuth high-stakes poker hand where Doug folded the 10-7 on 8-9 jack, and Hellmuth's jam there was unconscionable. Here we have Johnny Vibes. It's tough because I agree, PH and Icon, this and this. He'd play him heads up. Sure, there he is. I mean, okay.
And then Jason Kuhn stepping into the forum saying he's got no dog in the fight. But talking about somebody as the GOAT based on World Series results is the same as talking about their Little League stats to determine the greatest baseball player of all time.
Whoa.
Top players can't be bothered to show up for 95% of the events. I mean, a touch of nose in the air, pinkies out vibe there from Kuhn in reference to the group that maybe doesn't want to rally and show up for some of the other stuff?
I don't know, man. I know this whole conversation, like it's I got nothing, Ali. You know. I know what he's saying. You know what Phil is saying also, that, I mean, you have to go by some sort of results. You know, you can't go back in time and take those results away from him, and it's all interpretation and subjective, you know, so.
But it's been a long theme for as long as I can remember where Hellmuth just doesn't seem to garner any respect from the respected younger generations in poker. They just don't think he's good.
I don't think it's so black and white. Yeah, they think they're better, you know, and I think Phil's bravado or kind of referring to himself as the best, you know, or kind of
the bracelet metric obviously being
and not
one
just
that he
the bracelet
to.
metric, but just his attitude. You know, he kind of downplays topical sort of stuff at times. I mean, we all know how he is. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. I think it rubs some people the wrong way because poker is not like other sports. The highlight reel is so much more subtle at the elite levels, and it's a weird kind of sport. So it's like it would be ridiculous for in some other sports where the skill sets might be analogous to to kind of have that attitude. But in poker, you can kind of get away with it. You can just be like, I'm the best, you know, and then it's just sort of like harder to disprove and so on. And I think that some of the very elite no-limit players feel a bit offended perhaps or looked over, but end of the day it is what it is, and his self-promotion and marketing for the game grows the game, and love him or hate him, you're watching, so they're talking about him, you know what I mean? They're tweeting about him and stuff like that, so he's still here, he's still relevant, you know, all press is good press, so let's go, baby.
Well, as long as we're talking about self-promotion and marketing and referring to poker as a sport, I think it is fair to have a sports beverage.
Come on, man.
Look, I'm not entirely clear on how we pronounce it, but I have decided that the Thrive Ice Brain Fuel does need to be sampled here on set today.
Okay. Does
it? Scared.
Does it?
Well, look, Hellmuth beat Antonio in 3 straight. Let's go to the house with this. That probably didn't make for great TV, but it was hydrating. Wow, that tastes interestingly grapefruity. Light citrus. Okay. Anyway, let's talk Daniel Negreanu, shall we? I don't think he's knocking back any of this. He does have his vegan diet. He's pretty committed. But he's coming right off of that Doug Polk match, which so many people were glued to, Nick. And the performance really wasn't there. He lost $1.2 million. But did he gain a wealth of experience that's going to give him the leg up against Hellmuth going into this heads-up duel?
100%. I mean, all the preparation. You know, he hung in there with one of the best heads-up players of all time, who's still very, very prepared, like today, you know, playing at a high level. So, of course, this experience and everything that carries, everything that goes along with preparing for a match like that, getting those reps and getting those hands, and, you know, obviously increased his overall strength as a player. I mean, that's just empirical, you know, and it does give him a lot of legs up coming into this match, theoretically speaking, or just, you know, it would be illogical to think it doesn't. But we'll see. Hellmuth is very spooky. I mean, and this is his house. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
I mean, like, yeah, he's the reigning champ. He beat Antonio 3 straight. But, of course, Daniel is not Antonio by any stretch of the imagination. Esfandiari been out in the cash game streets, the private game streets, playing against more recreational players. And one needs to adapt. Daniel, we've both been watching him both as, you know, just an audience member, as a commentator, maybe even playing with him from time to time. You have his evolution. Has he gone from being a field-based player, which I know a lot of times Hellmuth's deviations from what we would consider GTO has been, you know, assigned to maybe now being more on that GTO side of the spectrum and falling right into that newer school camp of approach and strategy?
I would say so. We were all field-based players back in the day, aside from the very super geniuses who sort of understood the underlying stuff with the deck. So of course, if you're still here playing, you've migrated somewhat from one camp to the other. But the conversation is a bit tired at this point. GTO, it's you know, like he's taking theoretical ideas into account for sure, learning more things about proper sizes and spots, and deferring to computer ideas, as sobering as that may be. The computer, believe it or not, is quite strong at the game. So I think he's kind of studying with it, so on and so forth. But he's still got a lot of feel. You can't unfeel years of experience and stuff like that. So it's all intermingled at this point.
But conversely, do you think Phil is basically rejecting that side of the spectrum?
No, I don't, honestly. I just don't think that he believes as stringently as some how important it is. The thing is, I don't know. You know, you'll get a different answer from him every time. I mean, his preparation is personal to him and all of that. I don't think that he's just dismissing modern day ideas. It would be too absurd, you know? And I mean, whether he even knows it or not, it could just be through emulation. If you study the top players, you start to kind of at least adjust certain things. Like, and Phil's not a dummy, you know what I mean? Like
some osmosis, some adoption by proxy.
Of course, he has coaches too and all of this. So like, he's here, man. I mean, is he deep in the GTO streets, let's say? Like, probably not, but only he knows, you know? I just don't. I don't know.
So what does Daniel got to do then, given all of that we've just discussed, in order to take this thing down against Phil tomorrow?
You know, we have an expression, the guys that I study with, kind of cleanliness is godliness, not an original expression, but it just speaks to the idea that, like, if you do what the deck is supposed to do, hopefully things work out in a sense. It doesn't mean that we don't make reads anymore and all of this. So as far as the intangibles and the feel and this, one would think Daniel's sense of sniff will be there. I mean, it's been there for him for a long time. Poker-wise, he's probably going to use more maybe theoretically sound sizes and spots and be a little more protected in certain spots. And theoretically, this might allow him to grasp more EV as the match goes on, but we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, he's going to do his thing. We know there's a lot of variance in poker, but maybe his thing works out for him a little more than Hellmuth's thing works out for Phil. At least the odds, at least the sort of global marketplace on this match has made Daniel the favorite. So that's the idea.
Daniel exhibited a tremendous amount of emotion throughout that Doug Polk match, and he
Yes,
even
he
carried
did.
a lot of that emotion into when he and Phil were on No Gamble, No Future here on Poker Central, and it became contentious. And Daniel was like, put your money where your mouth is. I'm willing to bet that you're not going to be able to win a single dollar across a certain number of these 50Ks or 25Ks over at Aria. Do you think that beef is going to be a source of motivation or inspiration, or is it going to end up hindering his ability to just focus on the task at hand?
We're all different with that. We're all really different with that. For me, like, I don't know. The animosity can be distracting, or if it's hanging over you too much emotionally, like, man, I really don't want to lose to this guy, or whatever deeper kind of stuff. It could be, but Daniel is he's Daniel, you know? I mean, he's been in the public eye for years with this stuff, and he seems to be pretty comfortable with it. But I think end of the day, when the cards are dealt, you just go right to that mode, you know? But Phil can get under your skin. It's unbelievable, actually, playing with Phil. I've played with him many, many times. It's hard to explain, but he can really get under your skin bad. Like, I've been surprised how tilted I am by him, and as a maturation process, he's going to do his thing. You just got to do your thing, you know what I mean? But I think if anybody's going to get really tilted, I know Phil has the outbursts and stuff, but really, like, aggravated for real, I actually think Daniel is maybe at a slightly higher risk of that. If Phil starts making little comments and running good, who knows? You know, I mean, Daniel's a different guy now. He might punch him in the face or something. I mean, you know
Well,
what I mean?
let's shift our attention then to what Phil has got to do in order to take down Daniel.
Mix it up, you know, and he will. I mean, Phil's tricky, and he kind of keeps you guessing. And if he plays his breed of poker, whatever that is, but with a lot of kind of self-belief and just sort of doing his thing, keeping Daniel guessing, he can pose problems, of course. We've seen this for years. Phil can be very annoying and kind of pesky to deal with.
Just wildly unconventional and unpredictable.
Unconventional, and like, here's the thing. Like, if you take a passive line in a spot where a computer's like, that's a 12 BB mistake, you know, you got top pair, top kicker here on this fairly dry board check, he's like, checks back. That's a mistake for sure. He'll make some of those egregious kind of mistakes. I don't want to get too, you know what I mean? But the overall package, it's still very weird to deal with him, because it's like, I don't know. You just don't know, because then he'll just pour chips in the pot out of nowhere, and it's like,
And recapture the 12 BBs maybe
I don't
in
know
a different
about
spot
I
that he
don't know
wouldn't
about I
otherwise?
don't know about all that, but it's just, he's got to do his thing, you know, and I believe he will. And if he's not too intimidated or daunted, and he's kind of trying to seize the initiative in his own way and make Daniel a little more reactionary, I mean, we'll see. We just got to see. Once those hands are dealt, we're going to kind of see the way they play, honestly.
So the big question then becomes, as I ask you for a pick, is Phil Hellmuth being Phil and doing his thing going to be enough to bring it home, or do you give the nod to Daniel?
You know, the producers before this, they're making us pick. You know, I don't like to make these predictions because they seem so absurd, small sample size. I think match one, I like Phil. Like, I certainly like him with these odds. There's some crazy odds floating
What's
around
the craziest
internet.
number
I think
you've
I
heard?
saw 150 for match one. You know, in isolation, to me, that's I would take Phil.
Plus
you know?
150.
Yeah, I would take Phil plus 150. But I'm a sucker. I'm a sports betting sucker. I don't win betting on things. I lose. So, but yeah, I'm going to go with Phil match one. This is his house, 3-0. He's rattling them off. He's comfy here at the studio, and I don't know.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised to hear you say that. If you're going to take Phil, I think just for drama purposes, I should probably take Daniel.
I like Daniel in the overall for what it's worth. I think he'll get it done. You know,
and neither of these guys are walking away after one.
No, nobody's
shot.
walking away. I think when it's all said and done, Daniel is the favorite for a reason, and I believe in that. But just his first match, I'm just hunching Phil Coolers him something crazy. It just, I don't know.
Well, there you have it. Schulman taking Hellmuth. I'll go ahead and take Daniel. And if you guys want to watch High Stakes Duel 2, Round 1, it happens March 31st, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. That's a wrap for the Hype Show, brought to you by DraftKings. He's Nick Schulman. I'm Ali Nejad. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys tomorrow night for High Stakes Duel 2. You know, I feel underdressed.
You look good, buddy.
No, but I
Montclair,
feel-
baby. Sweats.